So I bought my first GH5 back in 2016 or 2017. And at this point I had barely started working with cameras. So my experience in general, and especially with the GH5, was limited. I remember when the GH5 came out that it was sort of revolutionary for the time because it had internal recording at 10-bit 422. However, my footage didn't look that great on it back then due to the little experience with cameras that I had, LUTs, color grading, and all that sort of stuff. Now fast forward to 2022, and I just bought two GH5s for my video production company, and I'm gonna tell you why. I've been taking these cameras on a lot of commercial shoots, and the cameras are really great. Here are a few reasons why I love them off the top of my head. I've shot with the Sonys like the FX3, FX6, and the Blackmagic Pocket 6Ks, and this camera came out a couple of years ago, but the quality is still outstanding. Not only that, but they also are a cheaper alternative. For example, a used GH5 on Facebook Marketplace or eBay sells for around $800, which is around what I paid for mine. So they have great body image stabilization, which is also known as IBIS, which I'll get into a little later in today's video. They're also very lightweight. To me, the most important thing that the GH5s have is the micro four thirds, which means that I can use the Sirui anamorphic lenses on them to shoot vlog internally at 10-bit 422 to get some really cool anamorphic films. These Sirui anamorphic lenses are amazing, and I recently bought the 35mm and the 50mm f1.8 anamorphic lens, and they go with me on my shoots and have left me with no complaints so far. The lenses cost $650 and $800 respectively, so this ends up being the cheaper option as far as anamorphic lenses go. I use the cameras in mainly two types of settings. Firstly, on professional shoots, and secondly, as my main YouTube camera for behind the scenes and things like that. I'm looking forward to seeing what else we can do with these cameras as well, because there's a lot of neat projects we have upcoming that could be fun to shoot with the GH5s. This means that you guys should be seeing a lot of future projects on this channel shot with the GH5 as well. And now I'm going to show you some behind the scenes of some of the projects we've recently done using the GH5s, so you can get an idea of how I personally use the GH5 and how versatile and adaptive it is. You're also going to be able to see how I can use the cameras in the handheld mode, because the IBIS is so effective, unlike some other cameras that are higher quality but can produce unsteady work without a stabilizer, such as the Sony a7S III and FX6. The IBIS essentially allows me to take some really cool handheld shots without having to connect the camera to a stabilizer or worry about having shakier hands. All the shots I have taken on it are incredibly smooth and obviously very stable shots. People have complained that the IBIS sometimes warps the image around the edges, but this is more likely caused by people not knowing what shots to take and what shots not to take with the IBIS on. With care and practice, I think the GH5 is really a great camera to have and sort of a no-brainer to use. I wanted to talk a little bit more about how the GH5s are micro four thirds sensors and what exactly that entails. Essentially, this means that the sensor itself is cropped in. You have full frame sensors that take up the full lens, which means that if you use a 50mm lens, the entire 50mm will be used. However, on a micro four thirds camera, it gets punched in by 1.6 or something like that. With a 50mm lens, it could end up being around 70 to 75mm. This is neither a pro nor con, but rather a tool that is great for specific shots or films that you're trying to capture. The only time I would not use a micro four thirds camera like a GH5 on a shoot is if you're going to be shooting a lot of low light stuff, because the smaller sensor is not going to allow a lot of light to come in how it would like with a Sony full frame camera. If you're exposed correctly in a controlled environment or outside shooting, these cameras are just perfect. As you can see, I have the GH5 set up in a small rig with all of these additions like a battery pack, two handles, and a monitor, and it still remains a super lightweight camera. I don't really get fatigued running around holding this camera as I would with other cameras, especially as I add more to them, and it's super easy to maneuver around and get some really neat shots because of this as well. The addition of these things is obviously not weight free, but the added weight is actually a positive rather than a negative, because it just means I could get even smoother shots with the camera having a bit more body to it. The camera is also inconspicuous enough that you can take it on the go. Places such as cafes or restaurants, which is somewhere I personally shoot a lot of my commercial content with. Getting away with guerrilla style filming in public locations is huge and is one of the major upsides of this camera. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys are using as your current camera, as well as what you think of the GH5 if you would consider buying it in 2022. As always, if you guys want to stay up to date with the videos we will be producing with the GH5 and with the behind the scenes content and video production and the business side of things, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified anytime I upload a video. Also, sound off in the comments about what content you guys want to see more from us. That's going to be it for today's video, but we'll see you on the next one.